I'm Ron Poirier. I've lived on First Street South all my life. That's 86 years. So I've been by Central Community Club or the park all my life.
My parents came to Canada in 1933. They moved, well, they were married in 1933. They came to Kenora shortly after. And they moved to the area just a block away from Central Park on Railway Street. That's where I was born at 1935.
Well, Louise and I moved to the central area in 1974. And at the time, Porky Crandall and Ron Poirier, Ralph Milliard were all heavily involved in the community club.
My aunt and my grandmother lived on 2nd Street South, and so I spent a large portion of my childhood growing up in that neighborhood and skating at Central Park and just running around in the summertime when there were baseball games on and just having that space to play in.
Well, we lived on Park Street, so we weren't very far from Central Park, and it was really, it was like a second home to us all through the 50s, down there playing hockey all the time. And yeah, it was a lot of times my dad even had to come down to Vegas to come back.
I go back to when I was like 4 and 5 years old, and my mother would put on, she bought some friend gave her some old hockey skates from a little boy or something. I didn't even have we were so poor.
And we just moved in 74. Our neighbor Porky Crandall was president. He said to Myron, okay, I'm doing it this year, but you're taking over after me.
And going back first, my memory of the park was an ice rink that was a tar paper shack on the southwest corner where the big diamond is now. And they had a little barrel stove in there that kept it warm. And there used to be a fellow that looked after it by the name of Dodie Ludet. He was a little short fellow, but he was a real friendly fellow. And as far as I can remember, it was only in the beginning of the 40s, maybe 44, 45. And also in the other corner, close to the senior center, there where the washrooms are now, there used to be a big grandstand there that went up about 10 or 12 rows, and there was dressing rooms underneath it. But by that time, at that age, it was starting to fall apart, so it wasn't there very long.
I have a vague memory of starting off with bob skates, and then I graduated to a pair of boys' skates that were obviously handed down. They were still better than the bob skates.
From there, they moved the rink in the 50s to where the present location is now at the east end. And they made a small shack there. I'd say it's maybe about 6 meters by 6 meters. It's small, but it was sufficient to get your skates on and keep warm.
It was good. We'd stay out, and sometimes our feet would be freezing. We'd come into the shack and we'd warm them up. They had a wood-burning barrel stove there, and take the skates off and put the socks right on top of the stove there. And
I vaguely remember the smell of mittens as they, the snow melted on the mittens.
I'd go skating, and I wasn't to come home until the lights went out. So I'd go skating, the caretaker would tie up my skates, and I would go out there and skate. And I just had a great time. And of course, I'd be real tired because, the lights didn't go out till 9 o'clock, and my mother would get me out of the house at 7.
Taking off because my feet were so cold, taking off my skates, it was very painful when as the feet warmed up.
I still recall some of the caretakers there. I remember there was a Mr. O'Shiro. He was there, and then I think after him maybe Johnny Lange, and then Harry Simpson and Tom White. Tom White was there the longest, I think. He stayed there for the most years. He always left the lights on a little later for us than he was supposed to, because he was out playing hockey with us too, Tom.
One fellow that did a lot of work around there was Tom White, which lived very close to the rink there. He would come down and clean the ice, clean the building up, having to open it up, close it up. He did very well. And after his retired from the paper mill, he used to go to Vets every morning for coffee. And on the way back, he would pick up any returnable bottles, wine bottles, beer cans, pop cans, and turn them in and get the refund for them. What he would do with this money, he would take it and buy toilet paper and supplies for the arena or for the rink. And one morning, there's one fellow approached him and said, "Gee, you must be having a hard time. Here's $20 to help you out." And here he thought, the fellow did, that Tom was having a hard time, not knowing that he was collecting the money, or the bottles and the money, and buying supplies for the arena.
Well, sometimes, like I say, we'd be playing scrub hockey, but there were so many guys out on the ice, you could hardly move, when you get 30 guys on the ice. But still, it was fun. It was all fun. Imagine, we used to imitate who we wanted to play like in hockey. Some of us wanted to be Sugar Robertson, some of us wanted to be Sam Robertson and the other Robertson boys.
Playing the hockey, when I was younger, we had quite a few teams within the area. There was Central Community Club, there was Lakeside, there was Rideout, there was the North End, and we'd pretty well play all the games in the evening because the coaches, they worked during the daytime. And I can tell you, there were some nights that were really cold, and I can remember standing on the side of the boards there, and the coaches there, the tears were running down their eyes because they were so cold. But everybody survived, we had a good time, and we had a lot of competition between all the community clubs.
A lot of the guys there, like there was the Lunny boys, there was Brian LaRue, he came, and Paul Chop, Gary Owen, Bud Wagner. That ice was always crowded, always crowded. Not like it is now, you see, the outdoor rinks are certainly not used the way they used to be used. It was, like I say, it was like a second home to us. It was fun.
The rink was open 7 days a week, and it was from 5 on weekdays, Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then on Saturday it was from 1 to 9, and on Sundays, of course, the same. Flooding on the rink was always done after 9 o'clock in the evening. It was all volunteers, of course, again, and it was done after 9, as they closed the rink at 9.
It got so that the little kids couldn't skate because they were afraid of flying pucks, going back and forth. So our group approached the city, could they build a small little skating rink just to the side? And the city was really good. They did, it wasn't elaborate, and I think snowbanks just showed where it began and ended. But at least the young girls had a place to skate, and they never had to worry about getting by a puck. And then the boys were happy because they didn't have to worry about little girls. And then, so that really worked. So then I thought, it's pretty nice if we could teach these little girls figure skating, just a few little steps, just to make it, instead of going round and round and round. So I got a hold of, you might recognize some of these names, Marie Sigurdsson, Ruth Malouche, Nora Gallagher. They were all figure skaters. In fact, I think I'm pretty sure that Marie got into a Disney skate one year, like skating at one Disney World skating thing. And they all offered, and every Saturday I'd have figure skating for young girls from 2 to 3. They could still skate after 3, but I figured these women are offering an hour. So one would come one Saturday, and then the second one the next, then the third one, and then the reverse.
And we'd all take turns of opening the building, closing the building, cleaning snow. And we didn't have a snowblower at that time. It was all by hand. There was a good bunch that I'd say maybe a dozen and a half people that would come and and help out, and we were never stuck for help. And when we had play days or anything, there was always lots of people there to help with the lunches, or with the running of the games, or anything like that. So it was a joy belonging to the community club and seeing all the people, how they enjoyed it.
We didn't get involved till the fall of '75. We started then and kind of carried on. I guess the first thing we were involved with was fundraising for the community club, because it's all volunteer at that time, and any money that we got had to be raised by the volunteers.
To have a tea, you have to have tables and chairs. Well, all there was in the old shack were benches along the walls. So I had played bridge then, and I had 2 bridge tables and 8 chairs, and some other people did. There wasn't room enough for a lot. But anyways, we'd get on the phone, and we'd phone all the neighbors in First Street, Second Street, Park Street, Railway Street. Could they bring stuff for the bake sale? So the rest of us were going to make the sandwiches. So that worked out till the day of the tea. And now this is winter, okay? So now I got to get 2 card tables and 8 chairs over with 3 little kids. So what do I do? So I can only take 1 table at a time and 1 chair. My 3 kids are following me across. It's a good thing I live close to the rink. Across to the rink, so I'd get in the shack, dump the card table in the 1 chair. So then the caretaker was there, so I could leave my 3 kids. So anyways, then I'd go back home at the 2nd card table, 1 chair. So then I'd go back home, then had to take the rest. I could at least take 2 chairs at a time. But I wasn't the only one doing that. And then the food would come in. And you know, the people in the area, this whole area, right up till probably where King George is now, that used that rink, the food was fantastic for us. And we made a lot of money. Like really we did back then it was in the 60s, and people didn't have that much money. You know, pie would go for 50 cents, you know.
The big one at the time was the fathers and sons used to go out on a Sunday or on a weekend out to Devlin timber cutting areas and cut birch, tree-length birch. And then between Danny DeGagne and Devlin timber, we'd get it hauled into Central. And then we were able to get the inmates from the Kenora jail to come over and cut it into stove length and split it. And they rather enjoyed that because it was an outing for them. and that. So that was a big one. We did that for a number of years, and that was like I said, the father and son duo. And from that, after the wood was cut into stove length, and that one of the parents in the area would take orders from the local community here that wanted the wood, and then we would deliver it in the evenings to them. And I believe that the cost at that time was for a half-ton load of split birch was $50. That was what we got for the community club. And again, it was all volunteers that did this.
We wouldn't have had anything down right from the beginning if it hadn't been for volunteers.
It was the wind-up banquet, which was always exciting. It was a lot of work, but it was fun working with all the ladies, getting the food together. There were about 6 ladies would do the turkeys at home, and the rest of the ladies would go down to the Casey Hall and get all the vegetables ready for the evening. And it was just fun togetherness, and that just was a lot of fun to do it. And of course, we would have over 200 people who would come to the banquet. It was the kids, their parents, the coaches, and of course there was the trophies and awards given out.
Volunteers too that would go down at night, clean off the ice as much as they could, and then flood. The better they cleaned it, the better ice we had, and some were really particular about their ice. Like the community club did not have hot water at the time, which they use quite a bit now on rinks because it melts the snow and then makes a nice sheet of ice.
It wasn't for the volunteers, it wouldn't have run. But it was always run, in my opinion, it was always run all through the years after. We weren't quite as involved. It was run well, and there was lots of people that has to be thanked for doing that, to keeping it going. And
then in the 60s, we moved into, every Sunday night we started playing broom ball there, and Tom Malouche and his wife Doreen, they always came. Mel Hanton and Cassie, his wife, Elaine Wilson. A lot of the Park Street gang, like the Lunny Boys and Doug Hensel, and then a group of nurses that come out in the 60s at the hospital here, they started coming to play broomball too, so it was great fun, great fun.
Well, I guess getting back to the end of the family days when we used to have the broomball tournaments, I know that it was the adults against the kids, and one of the adults ended up in the hospital. Got checked into the boards, and it was one of the kids against the adults. It wasn't the other way around, and that, so that's sort of one memorable occasion, I guess. And
Who I was going to talk about was the baseball. Of course, Little League was at the Little Diamond. Like the bleachers used to be full. The games used to be like maybe middle May till June. It was always fun. Our kids were all involved in that too. And just the togetherness with other parents and, you know, just get together.
I remember once my grandma was a Pentecostal, and one summer they had a big, what would you call it, when all these Pentecostals got inside this tent and they were wailing and waving and, waving, and my grandma, and I had to sit there for like 4 hours in the heat under this tent, listening to all, because I was only like 5 or 6. I shouldn't have been in there.
The thing was too, I was involved in coaching junior girls baseball plus senior girls baseball, and we had games at the Little League Diamond. I was also a member of the ladies fastball for many years. We started at the Little Diamond, and there weren't very many baseball diamonds around Kenora to play at, so we used to have to try to find a diamond. If Central was not available, we used to go try to find one somewhere else. But anyways, we played games there. When the men weren't playing on the big diamond, we got to play there. And also there was tournaments held in Kenora for slow pitch, and that's where some of the games were played, is at the large diamond. There were many men's baseball games who played the large diamond too. There was the hardball, and then there was slow pitch took over from the hardball. And there was Pony League, which also played at the larger diamond over the years.
They always had I think the Kenora Agriculture Society also had their home show there with their food and their grass and their corn and their tomatoes. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were down there before they moved. And so there was popular events going on. And the CPR gave that part to the city. So that's why we all got upset when they wanted to put up a big building there, because we knew once one big building got up in one corner, then another would get up in another corner, and first thing you know, you wouldn't see a Central Park.
Central Park was always there, and it was always a busy hub in that neighborhood. So I have probably just as fond memories growing up on 2nd Street South and Central Park as I do in my own neighborhood. Then as I grew older and I moved away, and my husband and I lived in different communities in Canada and down in the States, we started to live in different communities and see, the very pretty towns and cities there, and the ones that were just kind of run down or not really built very nicely. The cities and towns that were very appealing and seemed to be places that you would want to live were the cities that had green space and parks where you could walk to from where you lived. You could walk, they were walkable cities. You could walk from your home to the park, to the shops, to your place of work. You weren't having to live in a car to get everywhere that you wanted to go. A lot of these communities had your typical rectangular parks. My husband and I started doing some reading on urban planning. When we moved back to Kenora, Central Park and the Central community really is what makes a good neighborhood. Having a green space, so an area of public realm where everybody is welcome to go to. You don't have to be a member of the club. You don't have to have a gym membership. The library serves very much like the same kind of thing. So, and we don't have a mall in our town, so we don't have somewhere in the winter where we can all go. Like we just have very few areas like that. But it serves as a nice focus of that central neighborhood where people have a destination to walk to meet other people in the neighborhood. Kids can go to, people can walk their dog to, there's games being played. So it's something that is really, has been done right in our community and is right. There was a proposal to possibly lose half of that park. It really struck me as this is the wrong way for something to be done when it's something that is actually very right in our community. The proposal for Central Park to be half sold off without a real plan in place. It was going to be sold, well, actually rezoned into an I think it was an R3 or R2, so it would just be sold so it could be developed. And whoever bought it would be able to develop it the way they wanted to. It happened right in the middle of when the COVID shutdown was happening. So at that point, people in our community and our province weren't able to gather and meet and go to school or work and talk about what was going on in town or our community. We really were all at home with our families. So it just seemed to me like there's not the opportunity just for that usual community chatter or, you know, what's going on, or is this the right decision or not to happen. I just felt that the dialogue hadn't really happened. Whether this was the right decision or not, it was happening too quickly. At that point, we had an opportunity to write letters supporting or not supporting the proposal, and that's when I just thought, this is too important.
We had strong feelings there when there was some talk about the city developing into something else other than the community center. We felt that was the wrong thing to do, particularly because, I mean, most subdivisions in the cities and that, they got to allow a green space, and here we had it, and the city was thinking about taking it away.
There were 13 letters that were written against, and I believe one person supported initially. It went through to the city council, and they took those into consideration and passed it. They said that there were a couple of studies that had not been done, but that they weren't going to do them. They didn't feel that they were important. They were required. And they passed it and said that Central Park the zoning would be changed and it would be sold. At that point, the only thing left was to do an LPAT appeal. And so through kind of discussions, mostly through social media and word of mouth, there ended up being a group of about 6 people, including myself, that didn't really know each other before, that kind of met. We were all different ages, different areas of the community that we lived in, that kind of came together and started a petition to see if there was interest of other people that felt the same way we did. And we did end up getting 875 names on the online petition as well. This seniors group took it upon themselves, led by a gentleman in his 90s, to take petitions on paper out into the central neighborhood. So they got that distributed. I even ended up with one in my mailbox in Lakeside, over past the rec center. And we ended up with another 200 to 300 names. So based on the interest on over 1,000 names, we did file an LPAT. But that had to be done under one person's name. So that one person filed it on behalf of our group, based on behalf of over 1,000 citizens. So there were 3 points that we had filed it on, and Central Park remained not able to be rezoned and not sold. so it remains a park.
And you know, even today, I mean, I see they built the new rink boards and also a building looking very good. And hopefully it gets going full tilt again sometime.
I'd like to end saying I'm really happy to be proud of rejuvenating Central Park and keeping it going. It's one of the things that I'm, in my life in Kenora, that I'm very proud that I was helping with great help and great assistance to keep Central Park alive. I'm very thankful for that.